Good evening, members, and welcome to the Scrutiny Committee meeting of Melton Borough Council. Members are reminded that we'll be using the new audio-visual system this evening, and the meeting will also be streamed live on YouTube. There's a quick reference card placed on the desk in front of you, which provides instructions on how to use the basic speaking function of the microphone. Members are asked to physically raise their hands in the usual way to indicate they wish to speak, and to use their microphones when speaking for the benefit of all present. The microphone is live when the red light displays. Please switch mobile phones to silent. Members may remove their face covering, while seated. Should you need to leave the room during the meeting, unless it's an emergency evacuation, when emergency exits should be used, then please use the marked exit and entrance. I will now provide a reminder of the evacuation procedure. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park, nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. Public recording of the meeting. There is legislation that allows the public to film, record, or use social media at council meetings. This must not be disruptive to the good order of the meeting, nor include any filming or recording of the public seating area. Before we go any further, I'd like to welcome to this first scrutiny meeting for new members who've never been on scrutiny before, and that's Councillors Prue Chandler, John Illingworth, and Mel Steadman. I hope you enjoy your time on scrutiny. I confirm that the following members are present and participating in this meeting. It's Councillor Rob Bindloss, Councillor Prue Chandler, Councillor Bob Child will be late, but he will be coming. Councillor Jean Douglas, Councillor Chris Evans, Councillor is he here, Chris Fisher? Oh, thank you. Councillor John Illingworth, Councillor Elaine Holmes, and Councillor Mel Steadman. We also very much welcome the leader of the council, Councillor Joe Orson. And in addition, we have the following council officers in attendance. That's Ed de Coverley, Chief Exec, Natasha Taylor, Democratic Services Manager, Adam Green, Senior Democratic Services and Scrutiny Officer, and Director for Growth and Regeneration, Pranali Parikh, who's not actually physically with us, is she? She's connected by Zoom. Yeah. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. We've got Bob Child will be late. Lee Higgins sent his apologies. He would like to have been here, but he can't be. Were there any others? That's it, I think, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, the minutes of the scrutiny meeting held on 20th of April 2021. If someone would like to, I hope you've all read them. If somebody would like to propose, and then a seconder.
I'll propose it, Chair.
Fine. Do we have a seconder? In which case, I'll second them. All those who were at that meeting, would you like to show that you're in favour of the minutes? Yep. Nobody disagrees with them. Is that right? Yeah. In which case, then those minutes can be signed. Are there any declaration of interest to be made? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Just declare personal interest in any matter relating to Leicestershire County Council as a member of that authority. Thank you. Yeah,
thank you, Leader. Any others? Oh, I can see another hand up. Yes, is that Elaine? God, I can hardly see who it is. Yeah, yes, Elaine.
Yes, it is. It's not an interest in that I'm interested, but you did mention that the deputy leader couldn't come. Now, when it was the meeting on Thursday, you actually stopped one of the opposition members being there. At this council, I have been a member for 28 years, as you have virtually the same. It is never, ever to stop any member coming to a meeting. They may not participate if they're not on that meeting and they're not a member of it, but they can never be stopped coming. And I just have got to tell you that. Thank you.
This related to the workshop the other day, and one member really wanted to come, but my initial feeling when I discussed it with Adam was that I could see no harm. And that was my initial reaction. But thinking about it, what we didn't want to do was sort of set a precedent. And we decided then that he would receive the information as the same as any other councillor would. But it's more or less traditional at the council that workshops and that sort of thing are just kept for those particular members. And that's as far as I can remember, it's been like that. So I was sorry that he couldn't join us, but as I say, we did discuss it. And unless the constitution changes, you know, that will be it. Because it was the precedent thing, really, you know, that we felt that if we allow one to join us, why not others? You know, and we just didn't think it would work. Yeah, Prue, did you want to say something?
I was very taken back by when Councillor Pritchett rang me and said he'd been barred from coming. And I would like to know where it is in the Constitution.
Well, as I say,
where is it in the Constitution?
No, I don't have the Constitution with me, but can I just...
I can't read off the internet. Nobody will send me.
Well, I think you're grown up enough to ask if you need something, and I know quite a few of us like to have a printed constitution, including me, and I don't have it in front of me, Prue. I don't know how expert you are on it, but I don't have it in front of me.
Just in answer to the two members, that it doesn't say anything in the Constitution about informal meetings or workshops. The meeting was arranged by the Scrutiny chairman, and the invitees were at her discretion.
Has the right to come to any meeting.
I'm sorry. This needs some sort of discussion, but not here when we're talking about declarations of interest. If members have really got a problem, let's take it up. You know, we'll look at it. The council will look at it. It's not the time nor place to try and sabotage a meeting, really. So I've no doubt it can be looked at. Natasha, can you give some thoughts to this? You know, and I've no doubt Natasha will be seeking views on it, but this isn't the time and place. It's just, it isn't, you know. Anyway, on we go. Now, agenda item 4 is the scrutiny work plan. As you all know, we had the workshop the other day, and the idea was that we would get as many ideas for suggestions to go on to our work plan as possible. And usually when we ask people to bring ideas to the committee meeting, we expect them to have done some sort of research to justify that stuff being added to the work plan. But this was different, the workshop. We just wanted ideas. We didn't want people sort of worrying about whether they be justified, which is why we opened them up to everything, and more or less nothing was excluded. It was unfortunate that there weren't more members there, but it was just a discussion thing. And what was very useful, but I think you all had the paperwork, was the paperwork that was sent through about the priorities and what the portfolio holders do, to give us some information and guide us as to what things we might be looking to do on the work plan. We did have a good sort of discussion, and it's always interesting to meet up with seniors, the SLT. They had some ideas. They could help us once or twice with about things perhaps which would be better done elsewhere, but we weren't arranging to do and set anything in stone. And I think one or two suggestions came through quite strongly, and I dare say they'll go forward. But that wasn't the idea. New members especially might not realise that it's a working document, the work plan. It's reconsidered at every meeting, every committee meeting, and we consider then whether we should be removing stuff, or we don't often remove stuff, but often we'll think about, especially members, something has cropped up and they'll want it on the work plan, they want us to look at it, perhaps to set up a task and finish group, or maybe one or two individuals. It's dynamic. Though we call it an annual work plan, and it shows all the stuff that we do over the year, it's not set in stone at the beginning of the civic year. It just isn't. So there'll be plenty of time for people to put their ideas. And in fact, Rob and I and Adam are meeting tomorrow to go through the ideas which have been suggested so far. And if any of you have got any other things, any ideas, email them to me and to the three of us, because they can be considered. And we can't sort of overload the work plan, but if people have got particular concerns, then very often they're the people who will want to be involved with taking a matter forward, so please don't worry. There won't be another workshop, but any time, and if you the Constitution explains what you've got to consider before we can be added to the work plan. And I've sent it out before, and I'll send it out again, because it's really good guidance. And but if anybody's got any ideas, just please let us know. We'll look at them. Lots of sort of concerns going on. I mean, this time last year, we were all bogged down with COVID, which is why we've had this really heavy stuff to be doing with COVID right the way through. But the lottery, that was just something from some of us spotting an enormous amount of money being taxpayers were having to pay for us to run a lottery. So there's all sorts of things. I know in the past, Elaine was very, very keen on card charging, but card charges as a matter were much too wide. But this time, what has been suggested is comparing our car parking charges with those charges in nearby and neighbour boroughs and districts, and so that might be quite a good one. And once you've got that information, and if it turns out that our charges are way out of line with elsewhere, that's the time then we can say, well, maybe Scrutiny should really be doing something big on this, but it could be a small thing to start with. So we're very, very wide. And yeah, Elaine, would you like to come in there?
I would. I hope you can hear me. The first meter in the Bell Centre, if you put £2 or whatever it is for staying longer, you can actually stay for 5 hours. And so you should all have a copy of the existing work plan, and we've started calling it the work programme, because we'll have a programme and the cabinet will have a plan. So it's not that there's any confusion really between the two, but if you look and see what's going on there, lots of it is sort of stuff that's come from last year and it's just been carried over.
The one big thing that we'll have to be getting stuck into at some time is about the Melton Borough Council's assets. And you might remember a few months back when members were getting into a real stew because they'd heard that places like Phoenix House were going to close. And there was a load of panic. But it was decided then, Leah's portfolio holder wanted it to go onto our work plan for the future. We couldn't deal with it then. But what we could say, and we can say now, that not to worry about assets, because none of the big assets will be sold, not until it's gone through scrutiny. So what we're looking for, not necessarily tonight, but certainly when you get home, if you've got things to say, let us know. We'll think about them, because we're all looking for ideas. And actually, at the end of the work plan, the document you've got, there'll be ideas about where you can look to find subjects. And of course, one of my favourites is the budget book. And there's so much in there. And when you look through the budget book, and you'll be surprised sometimes, about what we do spend money on. And the other one is the contracts register. And I noticed just recently it wasn't easy to find, but Councillor Child and Dawn Garton have sorted that out, and others in that department. So that's a good place to look for ideas. What contracts have we got? And do we think they're being run properly? There's all sorts of things that scrutiny can be looking at, and we want your ideas. When it comes to committee, we do ask you've given some thought to it, because you've got to meet certain criteria, and it's just wasting everybody's time if it's not appropriate. But as I say, it's a living document, and we'll be chewing tomorrow. The three of us will be chewing over the ideas so far, but they won't be set in stone. Nothing will be set in stone, and you can come to the next meeting if something has happened. And that's happened right the way through since we had a scrutiny committee. I mean, I can remember, I think it was Ronan who brought the charges, the housing charges, the extra charges, when he discovered that tenants weren't paying really for the things they should be paying. And so Ronan just brought that along, and it was so obvious that it needed looking at. And the same with voids. Once the subject of voids had come up, all the members I spoke to, everybody had a problem with void properties, and so that was an obvious good one, to be looking at as well. So as I keep looking, and if you're not quite sure, phone Rob or me or Adam, and we'll talk stuff through. But it is so wide, the remit, and it's not just within this council. We can hold other bodies to account. We can ask them to come here, or we can seek information from them, not in a nasty way, but we do have a special responsibility for our residents. So I hope you'll keep thinking, and not only that, people outside of the scrutiny committee, they've always had the opportunity, if they wished, to put forward subjects. So I'm hoping that over the coming year we'll get some good ideas. We've got new councillors, and so hopefully things can only things will improve. And can I just say about that? Maybe I'm not quite sure whether this is the right time or not, but we've got some sad news about Natasha. She's leaving. Not leaving the council, but she won't be helping us with scrutiny. This is her last meeting at scrutiny, and how she's helped us it's been absolutely marvelous. She's you really have. You've made such a difference. And now, of course, we very much welcome Adam, of course, who's taking Is this your first meeting, Adam?
No, we had the Zoom meeting in April.
All right, right. Anyway, he's very welcome and he's settling down. And he was telling me that he now is a fan of pork pies, and he's persuading his family as well to get, yeah. And they all agree there's something special. As a vegetarian, of course, there's something special about Melton Mowbray pork pies. But we're very sorry that you'll be going, Natasha, and you have been such a lovely person to work for, always there, always ready to help and guide. And that's carried on even today. But Adam is really getting stuck in, and yeah, and he'll be great too. Anyway, so
Sorry, Pat, may I just come in and say thank you for that? And just say that I will be keeping my finger on the pulse of scrutiny still. So yeah, I don't think you've quite got rid of me totally yet.
any questions about the work plan or the work program, as we're going to call it? Any ideas? Yeah, please, Mel. Yeah.
Thanks, thank you, Chair. I was just thinking actually on the car parking, and it links in with everything that you suggested tonight. Actually, the car parking north of the cattle market, as a short-term post-COVID recovery, could that become free car parking for people who are prepared to walk into town in the short term to help the recovery of the town centre? Because people always moan about parking.
Concern, isn't it? Would you be able to, will somebody answer that question? Because
Madam Chairman, would you like me to just pick that point up? I think there's probably a useful conversation to be had with the Director for Growth and Regeneration, who's joining the meeting later, as part of the recovery process. Actually, it may well be worth picking up with her directly.
Pranali, are you there? Can you come in?
let Ed speak for a minute, and then if Pranali joins us, we can go to Pranali.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Just to reiterate my point, obviously dependent on being able to make contact with Pranali Parikh, the Director for Growth and Regeneration. I know that the committee is due to consider the task and finish group related to town centre recovery later in the agenda, and it probably fits quite nicely as part of that discussion. Obviously, the council's done a number of things to support recovery, both in a short term and planning more longer term with some of the town centre master plan work. So if it's not covered in later agenda, I can certainly make sure the response comes back to the committee shortly, but it may well be covered in the later agenda, particularly if you can get hold of Pranali through the wonders of our technology.
Thanks for that, Ed. And I don't think we should ever forget, if you've got a question like that, go to an officer, go to the portfolio holder, because that's what they will answer you, and they'll have the and you can, without waiting for a meeting. And yeah, Mel.
I didn't expect an answer tonight, to be fair. I just wanted it, if we're going to discuss car parking and charges. Sorry, if we're going, I didn't expect an answer tonight, to be fair. It was just a case, if we're going to look at car parking and charges in the town, could we also look at areas of free parking to help recovery? So it's not necessary that, thank you.
No, have we got a car parking strategy? I can't remember.
There is one, and I think it was reviewed as part of the changes to charges that were implemented. I think it was April 2020 2020, wasn't it? Although they were suspended, those changes because of COVID, and obviously the free parking was provided throughout the summer last year. But yeah, I'm aware obviously this came up in the scrutiny workshop discussion the other day. So obviously, if it just come forward as part of your work plan, then obviously we can support that process and certainly answer some of the questions that have been posed this evening.
Yeah, and if there are one or two councillors who like to do that investigation, just and it's be quite a short thing, and just to establish what car parking charges are at neighbouring boroughs. You know, that's not difficult. You know, it doesn't need meetings. You know, you can probably get it off their websites. And it gives us some idea of what's going on elsewhere and a guide. We would hope that we wouldn't be that different, not just the prices, but the changes on different days and that sort of thing, and how much free parking there is. So if anybody, one or two councillors want to make a start on that, we'd be glad to hear from them. Elaine.
Thank you. You did say that we could say something about things we ought to scrutinise. And while we're talking about car parks, I had to go somewhere else to put the money in, because this thing it was only giving you 10 hours or whatever. But around the toilets, which have been a really strange phenomenon, I call it, because we never should have done away with what we did away with. There were people standing all round. There were little children wanting to wee like mad, and they couldn't get into those toilets. I don't know what was going on, but it's happened several times. And I don't go into the Bell Centre very often, but there are often people waiting outside there, and they keep saying it's not opening. So can we please somebody go and look? You know, I don't know whether we want to scrutinise toilets, but I really think it's important, because, you know, especially when you're older or when you're younger and you got to go. And it might sound funny, but it isn't. And it was totally a retrograde step. We can't do anything about knocking a place down and it costing a lot more, but it really is something we need to look at seriously.
I think that's an excellent idea, you know, because I mean, that's a combination really of knowing from the council how well they're used, because you should be able to get that from the money that's collected, and and keeping an eye out for queues. So if anybody fancies picking that up, we could well get it onto our work plan. Did you want to say something, John?
Yes, I just wanted to add to that comment. Having used those facilities on probably 3 occasions, 2 of which I found myself potentially locked in as opposed to locked out, I have to say the entry and exit system is not user-friendly. I can sympathise with people. I like to think of myself as a reasonably intelligent man, but the lights don't always change at the colour you're expecting them to, and they don't always show the colour that you think they are. When they're locked, they're not. When they're not, they are. So it is a very valid point that Councillor Holmes makes.
Yeah, I'll just make the point here that in the early days, some of you will know Peter Burgess, and I asked him to come and try them out. He uses a wheelchair. And my goodness me, first he had to use his card against the wall, and then the door opened. But by the time he got back to the door, it had closed. And he did it several times, and that was completely unfit for purpose, you know, and it shouldn't have been built like that. It was just nonsense. But what I will say is that Pranali was straight onto it, and it was sorted. But these things are important, and this is the sort of thing, just the sort of thing that we can be picking up. And that's it doesn't need a lot of investigation, you know, just a bit of getting information from the officers, and yeah. But the ideas so far are good. Oh, yeah, Prue.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Similar toilets had to be taken out in Grantham because they were a total disaster. The door used to open when people were actually using them. And the South Kesteven couldn't do anything about it. And in the end, they scrapped them, which was a rage in the town. Yeah, I think they got them all over the South Kesteven borough, Stamford, Bourne and the Deeping. So it was a costly exercise that they had to scrap. But they were a total disaster.
Well, I think that sounds a lot worse than getting locked in. You know.
I would assume we must have a maintenance contract on those loos. There must be something somewhere. And if we have got a maintenance contract on them, then perhaps somebody can go down and maintain them.
No more ideas, but can you understand, Jeannie? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The work we did on the task and recovery groups, the helping people and the shaping places, I thought was really good, useful exercises. We all learned a lot. We could help develop ideas moving forwards. I really enjoyed those with the project that I was given. I was just wondering though, could these not be carried forwards? And we've already kind of extended the lockdown till the end of July for a month. What if it does get extended a bit more and a bit more? I mean, we don't want that, but you know, it looks like it might happen, even if it's just in certain places of the United Kingdom. So can they be revised, reviewed? I noticed already that one of the cafes, I won't say which one, I don't think it's very fair, but has already removed all its tables and chairs outside, so you can't sit down now. And I keep meaning to go in and ask why, because I don't know why they've done that. So already there's been developments, certainly in the cafe area, that I'm interested in. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I would have thought that at least a revision at some point for those projects.
I think that's very good, but I think there might be highways questions. I think in the early days, you know, people bent over backwards to you know, about enforcement. But you can't just put tables and chairs, and no, without proper authority. What I'd like to do now is to talk about Lake Terrace. And you might remember, it seems a million years ago, back in February. And this is what we've found out really. On the 11th of February, at the Scrutiny Committee meeting, Chris Evans requested that an item be added to Scrutiny's work plan to review serious allegations made recently by Leicestershire County Council, who had publicly criticised the conduct and competence of MBC senior officers and members in relation to a housing scheme and land disposal off Lake Terrace, Melton Mowbray. Although Councillor Evans was correct in bringing these allegations to committee, he produced no evidence to indicate that the allegations might be true. I had complete confidence in the integrity and competence of Melton Borough Council's chief exec, senior officers and cabinet, and did not believe the allegations. I can remember saying, I just don't believe them. I couldn't understand why LCC should make such allegations, but if they contained any truth, then clearly it could indicate significant problems for MBC. The committee therefore agreed that an investigation was necessary in order to understand how this housing scheme had been dealt with and whether there was any truth in the LCC allegations. I decided that with the assistance of Vice Chair Rob Bindloss, we would review the whole process, gathering information regarding land registry, land searches, planning, land ownership, and any other matter related to this windfall site. Our review began with the outline planning permission in 2018, and our requests for information were dealt with promptly and efficiently by MBC officers, who also provided additional material which we might find useful. Our detailed investigation confirmed that throughout the process, MBC had acted professionally in accordance with the law and with extreme care. It transpired that the allegations reported to Scrutiny Committee on the 11th of February were completely untrue. It was very disappointing that some elected members had been so ready to believe the LCC allegations, despite the lack of evidence and despite LCC's track record, something that is all the more apparent after today's news regarding the Relief Road. During our investigation, it became clear that some of the information provided by LCC to LCC's cabinet and the public and considered at their meeting on the 5th of February was inaccurate and untrue, including the following. They said that the county council learned through the media the price the borough council had agreed for their land. This wasn't true, as no such figure was reported in the media, and we know that the county council was confidentially advised by the officers, our officers, of both the value and the professional methodology the borough council had used to establish the valuation agreed. That contrary to the ill-informed judgments and inappropriate comments expressed by LCC cabinet members, Melton Borough Council could clearly demonstrate that it had secured best value, and based on the comprehensive and independent valuation subsequently obtained, has secured a good financial deal for the council, and one that will unlock substantial, affordable housing to support our residents. In addition, LCC will benefit from more than £1 million or £1,075,000 more than that in Section 106 money to help LCC with their responsibilities, because they do have responsibilities. Melton isn't responsible for a lot of the things that they'd like us to pay for. That in a subsequent article in the Melton Times, a county council spokesperson suggested that they believed Melton Borough Council was trying to sell LCC land. This always sounded far-fetched, especially as this had not been mentioned on the 5th of February at the council, at the LCC's cabinet meeting. The review has found no evidence whatsoever that the borough council was trying to do this. Well, we knew that, we'd have known, it's something, not something you can hide. Again, there was just no basis for that allegation, but people are inclined, and you can't always blame them. You don't expect people, well, you expect people to tell the truth, and that hasn't always happened. I'm concerned that as part of this review, I'm also concerned that as part of this review, I established that the county council released information provided to them confidentially as part of an FOI. I'm continuing to follow up on this and other matters related to their release of information in line with statutory regulations. Given the lack of any evidence to support the county council's allegations and their desire to publicly criticise the council before raising any issues informally, it's clear that this was a malicious attack on the borough council at a time when negotiations on the MMDR were at a critical stage. Given the news we have received today regarding the Housing Infrastructure Fund, it's no surprise that once again, the County Council is trying to pass the blame onto us. What this review has shown is that our officers have served us professionally, diligently, and with the best interests of Melton and our council at heart. They have my complete confidence, and there was no justification for the attack on the decision taken by our cabinet, which has been fully vindicated by this review. MBC considers itself a reliable and honest partner to many organisations, including LCC. It is extremely disappointing that LCC chose to make public unfounded allegations, and we should certainly expect far better from one of our key partners in the future. LCC should remember that effective partnership working is essential to achieve positive outcomes for our community that we are all here to serve and support. So just to sum up, Chris was right to bring the stuff to scrutiny. They obviously, County Council was very wrong to have made those comments, you know, but everything has been absolutely, I don't know, dug it in so deep and in such detail that I'm absolutely confident that everything, all the way through, everything has been done correctly. Anyway, thank you for listening. And now, what I'm expecting now to do is for this, my words to be passed to Cabinet for their information and comment. And so it's been a long, difficult haul, you know, because there was an awful lot of stuff to be investigated. And of course, we've got to be absolutely accurate, you know, with what we say about things. So it will go to Cabinet, and I hope everybody here is okay with that happening. It'll go anyway, but oh yeah, Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I was well aware that the allegations had no evidence at the start, which is why I asked for them to be investigated. My concern all along was, why were the County Council making these allegations? And I note in your evidence, there is no statements from the County Council why they made these evidence and why they thought there was a case to be answered. I've done some digging myself, and their case is fairly clear. Their case is that if this wasn't a social housing scheme, the strip of land would be worth millions, and that is correct if it was a normal housing development. I think their argument, I was told by a county councillor, their argument is that the Cabinet were not informed that this was a potential price that could have been achieved if another development came along on that site. That was their argument. The argument was that no one in Cabinet appreciated that the ransom strip could be worth a lot more than was put in the record in the Cabinet meeting. And in the Cabinet meeting, it made it clear that the sum was fairly insignificant, well, a very insignificant amount of money in compensation for this ransom strip. That is their argument. Sorry, Chair, but I don't understand why you didn't ask the leader of the county council, and we have to be careful because we've got Joe Orson here, who's a county councillor himself, why you didn't ask him to justify his statement, because that to me is what scrutiny should do, get an expert witness in who's made the statement and ask him to justify in public why he made those serious allegations. And if he couldn't justify them, then everybody in the public could see them. I'm not a county councillor fan, but that's the way I would have done it. I would have got Nick Rushton to actually, in public, justify the statement he made against these two members in front of us. And that's what I'd have liked to have seen, to clear it once and for all. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, this was a difficult one. It was an unallocated site for a start. It wasn't planned for development, and unallocated sites don't usually end up being developed. That was the main thing, and the rest of it is conjecture. We've had this council, they employed a properly independent valuer, and he was his opinion was a lot different from the opinion of the in-house valuers at the county. And after all, I understand at that particular week that you had been speaking to someone at the county council. I believe it might have been Mr. Sinnott, and I know Elaine too spoke. And why did you not ask that question while you were actually in a conversation? But as far as I'm concerned, they had made the allegations about what was going on at Melton Council, and that was our review to make sure that we at Melton Council had acted properly, and that's what we've done. They can make all sorts of suggestions, but they could just as easily, and I can recall at one, I can't remember who told me that somebody there was very anxious to come over. Why didn't they just send us a letter when you and Elaine had those conversations? But we are where we are. We've looked into, we're absolutely certain that everything has been done properly here. And it's a shame. And added to which, I mean, I don't know whether you recall that the report I sent out a little while ago. And what really irritated me more than anything was the remarks about our chief exec, that he was incompetent. What on earth had they based that on? What had they based it on? It wasn't based on it wasn't based on one of his colleagues, you know, and it's so easy to sort of make that sort of remark and not be accountable. And I think the way they have behaved with this has been absolutely disgusting and outrageous. But this now, as I say, my words now will be, it's a short summary of what's gone on at the council, but this will now be part of the record of this meeting and this committee, and the information will go to cabinet and be part of theirs. And of course, there is some other investigation which is continuing, and when I get those results, I shall bring them to committee as well. But what we were anxious to do was to prove that our officers had acted professionally and honestly, which I think is a bit more than you can say about some officers at the county. So nobody else, does anybody else want to disagree? Does anybody else sort of, no? In which case these words I should be passing them to the cabinet for their consideration. And thanks for this time. I think we better. Something else, of course, with the work plan, we also get the forward plan from cabinet. It's always a good idea to be looking at that as well, to give you some idea of what's going on in cabinet's heads, you know, because that too could give rise to things you might want to scrutinise before they come to fruition. And of course, something else that we do have scrutiny, we can be part of the policy making, you know, and so if we've got ideas about things, we can put forward ideas. We can't make decisions, but we can give cabinet ideas as well, perhaps if we think that there should be particular policies that the council would do better for. Sorry, did you want me? No. Pardon? Yes, yeah. On now to agenda item 5, and a very warm welcome to Councillor Orson, and I think the Chief Exec, I think, is going to be stepping in as well. And you should all have copies of the presentation. I hope you have. And there will be time after the presentation. Please don't interrupt unless it's a matter of clarity, but there will be time and space for questions after the presentation. Anyway, welcome and thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat, for the invitation. I'm certainly pleased Ed's here, because when it comes to figures and things, just go out my head, I'm afraid. So whereas Ed's totally the opposite to me. Maybe that's why we've had a pretty strong relationship for 4 years now. I like to think we complement each other, but I think it's more one-sided towards Ed though. You're certainly right, and we will come on to what's happened today later on. It's going to be around slide 4, I think. We will talk about today a little bit with your permission, Chair, because it's certainly been an eventful weekend for myself and Ed, and also I believe Kieran got involved as well. Yeah, and maybe other officers, which I'm not too sure of. But anyway, it really has been quite a long weekend. I went away just for interest. I just went to Hunstanton for a weekend, thought it would be nice and peaceful, and then it all kicked off at 3:30 on Friday afternoon. So there we go. Anyway, title slide. There it is, Scrutiny Committee presentation. So obviously it's an annual event, and to be honest, I can't believe it's 12 months ago since I last came, and it's, you know, it's just unbelievable how time goes, really. I can certainly remember the first one as well. I was quite nervous, and guess what? I'm probably even more nervous tonight than the first one, because so much has been happening, and I've got so much to be proud of with this council, as we will find out as we go through each slide. So if we could go to slide 2, please, Adam. So obviously review of 2020-21 and the corporate strategy approved in September 2020-24. Often forgotten about councillors, but it was the councillors that decided the strategy effectively. It wasn't the cabinet, it wasn't the leader, it wasn't the chair of the scrutiny whatsoever. It was the group of councillors. We're all here, well, most of us were here anyway. Some found it a bit frustrating putting stickers on walls and everything like that, but what we did was we came up with a corporate strategy. And I believe it was absolutely smack on what we all chose that day effectively. And it was around September 20, and it set the strategic direction for the next 4 years for this council and for effectively the first year of the new council in 2 years' time. And it's been organised around the 3 themes which are up there: helping people, shaping places, and what I know we are, a great council that certainly punches above its weight. And the presentation will give a headline review against all of this as we go through the presentation with your okay, Chair. So if we could move on to slide 3, please, Adam. You know, it wouldn't be right unless we kicked off with the coronavirus. Obviously, it's been a massive event in the whole of the country, in the whole of the world, and in Melton Mowbray we're no difference. And we certainly in Melton Borough Council, we kicked off really well. I can remember seeing the slides of people working in this room here, you know, 2 meters apart, getting food parcels out. I genuinely can't tell you how many food parcels we have got out, but it's just an absolutely huge number, and lots of support. My own village, they use the Melton Borough Council hub, as I'm sure they did at Long Clawson, Barkston, Waltham, and so it goes on. It became massively reliant for the whole of the community of Melton Mowbray, and it is still working to this day. So very, very proud of that. The improvement in housing services with a new tenancy agreement and number of new policies. I don't have to remind you, Chair of Scrutiny, how much work has gone into housing and how much money even has gone into housing. We totally changed the priority of the council towards housing. We now have a new lead member on housing who I believe is going to strengthen this even more. He certainly started off well with having a strong relationship with the chair of the Tenants Forum in John Skerritt. I think John must be over 80 now, but he's no different to what he was when he was about 20 or 30, I don't think. He's still keyed up, and I know Ronan, our new lead, has been talking to John. Obviously, it was disappointing we lost Andrew, but understandable, to be fair. And I wish him well in his future. But we look forward to welcoming Michelle. It is Michelle, isn't it? Yep, I got that right. In July, and she will strengthen up. But in the meantime, we got Craig. Craig is a housing expert, and that really is his strength. Michelle's more rounded and she's more focused on the community. So I genuinely believe we're going to have a great relationship there. Michelle leading on the community, learning about the housing, and Craig and Ronan really thrusting through with the housing services, with the new agreements and a number of new policies. Now, the housing compliance, health and safety, this was 18 months ago. I looked towards the chief executive. This was a major embarrassment to myself. I definitely thought we were going to get called in by the regulator, and I heard about prison sentences for chief executive and leaders of the council if this was wrong. And I can't say I had a sleepless nights, but it really was scary, to be honest. It was absolutely awful. But what we've done, you know, we've got on with the job and we've got it going. We're not there yet. We all know that. I mean, what came fascinating to me, because I've been chairing the focus group that's been watching this, is it's very difficult to get access to some people's homes, sometimes for some things that people don't want us to find in there. And I never thought of that sort of thing, and that has held up the progress that we've been making. But certainly when it came to gas, which was the main one, which really put the red flag up, which 100% compliance now, isn't it? Yeah, which is the main one. So again, very, very proud. And we move forward on that. And Craig is certainly picking up on the few odds and sods to the left. And we won't put it to bed. It will remain a priority. We will not get that wrong again. Community Safety Partnership agreed, focusing on priority neighbourhoods. I was attacked for being a racist last week online because I couldn't pronounce the chairman of the Leicester City Football Club's name. Yeah, so there you go. That's how being a racist is measured nowadays. I make no apologies for that. I still can't apply the guy's name. What I do say, he and his father did a great job for Leicester City and brought huge rewards to Leicester and Leicestershire, and well done to him. But it just goes to show how things can be measured. Melton is a relatively safe place. The charge was made against me simply because rates in hate crime had gone up 33%, I think it was. And I think it actually was, it went from 4 to 7, something like that. That's all it was when I checked it all out. And I had a few people had to come back and apologise to me, actually, which has been quite pleasant for me. And also, if you look at county-wide, the hate figures have gone up far more than what they have in Melton Mowbray. But again, we have a new cabinet lead in community safety and in Malise. And Malise has been involved in community safety before, and his heart is actually in it. And he's taken over from myself on the police and crime panel as well at Leicestershire. And that's been very popular at Leicestershire, that he's going to be taking over from me. Not because they want rid of me, but because Malise will do a great job. The digital customer self-service platform launched last year. Mental health services are more accessible, even when people haven't been able to come into the offices. And of course, that has been even more so with COVID. People have been frightened to come into Melton. Myself, I only came into Melton twice in a year, would you believe? That takes some believing now when I look back, but that's reality. And so everyone has become more and more reliant on IT and webs. And in some ways, it's moved us on an extra few years in 1 year. People are far more confident about accessing our services through the website. What it does mean, it is important to keep on top of websites, make them so easy to use. I quote the county council head of IT. It was a she at the time. She did say that people do like to find what they're looking for after only 3 clicks in IT. Otherwise, they can soon get bored and fed up. And I think there's a lot in that, and that's what our own website's doing. It's easier, it's far more accessible than what it was. But again, that improvement will just carry on. Leisure contract extension, a massive financial hit through COVID on the leisure centres. They had to close. We've provided significant financial resources to help them, and as part of that, an extended contract by 2 years to give us time to explore a sustainable future. As we all know, we are heading for problems with the swimming baths and also top of Burton Hill. The interesting thing is, by the way, it's not localised just to Melton Borough. The swimming baths are, of course, our colleagues in the other districts have the same problems, and which is quite convenient in one way, because it means Aisha, who's leading on this for as an officer, has plenty of people she can talk to, i.e. as the lead members can as well. If we could move to slide 4, please, Adam. Shaping places, which is always massively interesting. Just to review this theme, something I'm very proud of, and I'm certainly, if the deputy leader was here, was the response to COVID on the business grants and support to recovery of the economy. Now, is it 19 million pounds we've dished out? Yeah, it is 19 million pounds. I'm doing quite well on figures tonight, Chair. So it shows I've done my homework, but that, you know, they have dished out 19 million pounds to support businesses in Melton Mowbray. I think that is absolutely staggering. Certainly, I had one person in my own patch of Holwell Village, actually. This was on the first tranche, where I got a phone call from them, and they didn't even know what the money was for. And they said, your council sent me £10,000, I remember, what's it for? So had to explain, and they were very, very grateful for it. But it just goes to show how diligent the department was. Lee Byrne, Dawn Garton, obviously deputy leader, and I'm sure others who to be honest, I don't know the names, but I know they got a type of panel towards these grants, and it worked very, very well. And that 19 million pounds, okay, it's helped the individuals, but it's also massively helped the general economy of Melton Mowbray. And I walked past the anchor at Nether Broughton today, and Paul was there, the landlord, he was outside. Bob Child he's pointing in that window, wanting to get in. I don't know where he's gone to. He's gone that direction. You might have a load of bells go off, Elaine. I think he's gone now, Elaine. I'll just wait for Councillor Child to get here with your okay. I think he must have gone round to the front door, Natasha. I'm well aware that Bob's been to Gadsby Parish Council tonight, so I'm well aware he's been on duty. So.
Grants have been absolute lifesaver, haven't they, for people, businesses? Absolutely.
I'm not sure on the percentages of success, but I believe it's they've done a great job. Have we found Bob Child yet?
He'll be joining us just shortly, just a couple of minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll carry on then. I think that's the best way. Delivery of growth, more home builds in the last 2 years than at any time in the last 20 years. 11.5 year land supply. That just has to be outstandingly, brilliantly good. So that's thanks to the planning committee. The planning committee of a number of years ago. I think John would have been in the chair possibly at that point in time, because those houses are now being built. It's well done to the officers involved, and it's just really an outstanding figure. And of course, with having it's actually 11.6 year land supply of homes, that takes the pressure off taking having to the planning permission being granted to schemes that probably shouldn't really get it at the end of the day. So, so that has to be good. we're on target. The only downside to it is I don't suppose we'll get new homes bonus anymore, do we, Chief Exec? Yeah, it's just typical. I can remember Dawn Garden forecasting that. She said, we'll about get it right when new homes bonus disappears, and that's what's happened. But never mind. The important thing is the homes are being built in a record amount. The master plans and the MMDR, lots of work, progress made, significant update, of course, and obviously the MMDR is just massive to this borough. I think everyone in this room agrees with that. It's been a hard slog for virtually 2.5 years now. We started off with the County Council wanting us to give them £2.4 million a year or something like that. And every time we said, no, we don't think it's right, they've come back with a better deal some weeks later. I mean, the reality is we are not the highway agency. They are. We're not the education authority. They are. It's as simple as that, really. The suggestion from the County Council that we walked away from them is just nothing short of outrageous, really, to be honest. What has actually happened, we were having regular meetings with MHCLG, which is Ministry for Housing, something in local government, isn't it? And Homes England. Hi, Bob. And we had a number of these meetings, and the idea was effectively brokered by Alicia, our MP, to try and get people together, to try and find a way forward through the impasse. And then today, it was March the 10th was our last meeting. A meeting was fixed for roughly a fortnight later. The day before that meeting, Ed, our chief executive, got a email from a senior civil servant who we believe is quite influential within that department, and said that Ed and myself were not needed at the meeting the following day. Now, that's 3 months ago now. And Ed and I have sent, I believe, between us a total of 5 emails asking for an update of where we are with the MMDR, and we didn't get any answer until Friday morning at 9:30. Ed will have to tell me if I'm wrong on this, from a guy called Andrew, who apologised for the silence, but said that the negotiations were ongoing between Homes England and Leicestershire County Councils as the contractual parties involved. At 3:30 on Friday afternoon, our chief executive got an email from the chief executive of Leicestershire County Council, only 6 hours later, saying effectively it was going to be a recommendation at the cabinet meeting on the 22nd to hand the money back to MHCLG. So that decision effectively, you would first think actually that decision was taken within a 6-hour period only on Friday. I would suggest that's wrong. I would suggest that MHCLG didn't realise what the County Council were quite doing, or Homes England, and I suspect that decision was taken at the County Council, knowing very well how the county work. And I recognise this is on a video, but I suspect the decision was taken last Tuesday morning at what they call the SCG, which is called the Strategic Cabinet Group. But who knows, that's their business. But for them to suggest we walked away was outrageous. They simply, no one got in contact with us whatsoever. Now, if you want to find the real reasons why the County Council are going to pull the plug or recommended to pull the plug, get hold of the Cabinet report. And don't look at the headlines, because that's what they want you to do, where they blame Melton Borough Council. Have a look at paragraphs 12, 23, 24 and 25. And they will tell you, that will tell you exactly why they're pulling the plug. And the simple reason is they can't agree a contractual arrangements with Homes England. They just can't do it. But for some reason, instead of saying that, they want to blame us. And I just think it's outrageous. That's why over the weekend, lots of conversations. My other half got quite angry with me, and I suspect Mrs. de Coverley got quite frustrated as well with phone calls going on. But obviously we decided we had to be prepared for Monday morning. And sure enough, we were prepared for this morning. And as soon as the County Council did publish papers, we were in a position to publish our own thoughts. And as you well know, we've now got an online petition going. How many people will sign it? I don't know, but it's their opportunity to sign it. Well, maybe Pat, I mean, you're quite a champion of those who can't get online, and how can they sign it? And I can't answer that one to you, I'm afraid, but it is because we've only got 7 days. And if you, those of you who like the Hollywood films will remember Flash Gordon, when a star said, "Flash, Flash, we've only got 14 days to save the Earth." We've got 7 days to save the road on this occasion. Last time I looked, it's 130, 40, I think, signatures. So we're slowly creeping up. But it's been a long road, this one, long road. Tonight, Alicia Kearns has come out bitterly attacking Leicestershire County Council too. She's done that on Facebook and also through tweets. So that's where we are. Where it's all going to end, I have no idea. I hope it does end in what we've asked the County Council to do, which is to review their decision, or at least let's put the record straight, let's get the facts right. But we will find out their response, no doubt, a week tomorrow at the Cabinet meeting. The second GP surgery, that has been going on, that's good news. We are linking it to the leisure aspirations. I am well aware that through the previous resource cabinet member, Councillor Rhodes, the County Council were interested in land going to a second GP surgery, but that would have been at the north end of town. As a council, we prefer to continue developing our leisure aspirations at the top of Burton Road there and bring in a second GP surgery. We've now had good regular meetings with the CCG, and we have an agreement in principle with Andy Williams, that's right. I always have to think of the former singer, Andy Williams. He certainly has agreed to principle that there will be a second GP surgery in Melton. The question is when and where, that still has to be answered. And I'm hoping that we can persuade Andy to come out with something more definite certainly by, say, Christmas time, New Year. And I think that's what he will be doing. But that really is a good news story. Rail improvements to Nottingham. Only one of a few places in the country to gain government funding to build a business case, so that's good news. And this is a type of thing it could do. It could scupper things like that, because that does provide a link round Melton for people to use the rail links even more. And this is the impact of the County Council's recommendation to their cabinet could have on Melton Mowbray next week. Bottleford master planning. Now, this is an interesting one because this came out of when I sent an email out saying it would be useful to meet members in a relaxed way. And I had obviously a mixed response to that. Some people thought it was good, some didn't, and so it went on. And it has been quite positive. And I met Don and Prue on their own, I remember. And out of that came effectively is Bottleford master planning. It has moved forward as I understand it, but it did come out of that meeting. And I can remember Don, by the way, and Don won't mind me saying, because I know it's true, he saw no point in meeting me at all, but he came to that one in the end, and Prue was with him. And that was a real positive. So great engagement with the ward members, increase in focus. And we got to find the resources to help. And it won't be a master plan quite like we got for the whole borough, but we are doing our best. And I am absolutely positive that Don and Prue will be quite pleased, and they're going to be actively involved in this as well. Asset disposal, obviously that will always continue. If any landowner, any property owner will always look at disposal. You have to be very careful though, you don't sell off the family silver. So you do need to see a marked gain on the land that you sell. And what is amazing to me, our land of only 10 years ago that probably only had an occupation value to it has suddenly increased dramatically. So you have to be very, very careful of that. You've already mentioned Phoenix House, Pat. Yeah, there was a great misunderstanding about that, but obviously the portfolio holders handled that very well to me. housing strategies in draft, and the Discovery Melton website is being finalised. That's due to launch on the 8th of July. I understand there's a soft launch going on at this moment. I haven't seen it myself, but I do understand that is happening. And the Christmas lights, they were improved, and that went down really, really well, actually. And only one person asked how much it cost, and that was Councillor Holmes. She was the only one. Absolutely no one else asked that. Oh, do you do it? Okay, that's two. But no one in the public asked, which surprised me at all, a great deal. And as you well know, town centre street furniture painting will take place as well. No doubt we'll have an argument about what colour, etc. But the important thing is let's get them painted looking better. Slide 5, please, Adam. Great Council, and I think that's just a great name for Melton Borough Council. So the first two priorities of what we deliver, and the priority themes about how we deliver them as a council. Financial stability is always a key, and we've just had a balanced budget for 2 years running. Now, if you remember that, again, the previous member for resources at the county council in his last budget meeting at this council gave us a really bad review on our finances and predicted gloom, and the heavens would open and would all be struck down. That hasn't happened. It's gone quite the reverse. Actually, we've had 2 balanced budgets since. So it goes to show maybe on that point in time, the senior member didn't actually go through his papers correctly. There has been governance improvements, and that continues, the LGA review. And if you think about it quite simply, as you well know, we've just increased the cabinet number. We've got a cabinet support member, and that was as a direct part of the LGA review. I took it on board. My heart, I think we had this conversation, Chris and I have, my heart is always with an odd number for cabinet members, purely to get the chairman out of an awkward situation of giving a casting vote, maybe possibly, but I don't know. But I'll always think an odd number is better. But I was persuaded by the LGA review to go for an increase. And also I decided I couldn't persuade other members to take on other parts of the LGA review unless I was seen to be doing something myself, Chair. And but it has worked well. We did effectively split one member's portfolio because it was a large portfolio, and Melisa Ronan and got that between them. New corporate structure was approved in November. New corporate structures just keep coming, don't they? Just when you get used to them, another one will have to come. But it's moving resources to the priorities that you've set as members, remember. Staff survey, it was positive, no doubt about that, and I keep being told by odd people how the staff are very unhappy, but that's not what the survey said. The important thing to me, and this came out with our first meeting with Ed, is staff retention, and that was what was most upsetting by the county council's attack on us over Lake Terrace, by the way. There we are, we've got a new property officer who got every qualification you could think of. And effectively, his valuation was really attacked with, as you've already said, Pat, with totally out of order. And how can we attract good staff and then retain them when you get that sort of attacking going on, especially from our own members? Because this organisation, in the last 4 years, we've really attracted top officers. We've now got to retain these officers. We've got 3 of them with us tonight, and I don't want to lose any of them. But if we have unsustained attacks from outside sources and also within our own ranks, that's what will happen. Now, Adele, we lost her, but we lost Adele purely for good reasons. She got a super job. Can't remember, is it Northampton or whatever it is, but well done, Adele. She's moved on. But we really don't want to lose any more. We lost Andrew, of course. I mean, he was a great find, and he's gone next door. He's picked up a portfolio way bigger than our 1,800 homes, to understandable. But we've really got to retain our staff. That's the only way we can improve. Ict Partnership Service agreed January 22 for 5 years, bringing back in housing services with Blavey and Hinckley. Remote council meetings, we were, as you all know, one of the first to do this in the country. great achievement of AV system and now face-to-face meetings being shown live on YouTube. I have to remind Chris and I, we do joke a bit with each other. He did oppose the money for this night, Steve Carter did, but hey ho, but here we are, we've moved on and we can now beam out to YouTube, and no doubt there's quite a few people watching tonight, and it's all because of the new IT we've got. So slide 6, please, Adam. So the coming year, look ahead, key focus on housing stock condition. Pat's already mentioned this. Again, going from memory, I believe, is it around 14 million in the HRA account? Yep, it is around. Oh, by the way, the county council thought we should pay for the relief road out of the HRA account. How about that one for financial acumen from the county council? Absolutely amazing, but that's what they wanted. But if that had happened, by the way, I can tell you the chief executive and I would have been in prison. It would have been a criminal offence. But that's what they wanted us to do. Housing stock condition, I must admit, I am scared about this. When it comes in, it's well overdue. It hasn't been done for years, literally years and years. Should have been done way before this. I am fearful whether that £14 million will be enough, to be honest, at this moment in time. I don't want to appear to be a bit of a sayer, but I'm just a bit nervous of that. But at least we will know once that stock condition survey is done, and also the development of the HRA business plan. But we certainly got to keep investing in our resources. And that's what, whilst I'm leader, and I'm sure whoever follows me will want to do that. Asset disposals, we mentioned this already, the cattle market, Phoenix House, those reviews are continuing. But like I say, I am against just selling off the family silver just for the sake of selling, shall we say. We've got to see a proper gain for that. Refurbishment of the tennis courts as a MSV being finalised and working with Melton Town Football Club too. If you remember, we've had endless conversations with the tennis club. We came up with a great formula. They said it couldn't be done, but it's going to be done. It is done. And the football, that was an absolute disaster about 4 or 5 years ago, I remember. But all of a sudden, things look rosy, and we've done very well there. Climate change strategy, which a lot of you are involved in, are very, very keen on and want to see developed as quick as possible. That is ongoing, and obviously reports will be made soon. The work to establish the feasibility of the health and leisure park and the second GP surgery, that continues, as said earlier, and the resolution on MMDR, we've already covered that. If anybody wants to talk about it more, I don't know, but I certainly emailed all members this morning. You all know about the petition. I don't think there's anything else really happened. And I've told you about Alicia's really attack the county council tonight and sticking up for the residents of Melton Mowbray. And my massive thanks do go to Alicia again, if that could be noted, Adam, as well. Investment in the country park. We all know it's a big jewel in the Melton Crown, the country park, and I use it myself, not quite so much since COVID's been going on because I haven't been coming into Melton. But certainly at lunchtime, I could walk around the country park twice in an hour and a half. And then often or not, there'd be time for a meeting down here. And it never fails to amaze me how few people use the country park. It really is an incredible asset to this town, wonderfully designed. And Elaine will know more because a lot of it was on the family's land. What was about 25 years ago, is it, Elaine? It all kicked off, yeah. And I recognise there are access issues on Elaine's land as well, but the actual country park is a great asset. But again, we do have to keep investing, and that's what we've been doing, as you well know, at the last budget meeting with the bridges. But the ongoing issue really is the continuing COVID recovery. It's going to be around with us for a while. I can remember saying, not that I'm a wise person on COVID, but if you looked at the history of all pandemics, it was always going to be here for 2 years, even with vaccines. And I still think that's going to be the case. It's certainly something I do subscribe with the experts. It's something that's not going to go away. It's something that we will simply have to learn to live with. And that's what we do. And here we are tonight, not 2 meters apart, about 4 meters apart, I think. But in spite of that, that's what we'll do. I've noticed, I told you I was on the coast at the weekend. beautiful weather, crowded prom, but everyone was very respectful of keeping distances. And so that's what's happening. We're learning to live with it. That's all I have to say. I've rambled on a bit there, Chair. I can do my best to answer any questions. I do have my right hand with me when it comes to facts and figures with me too. And if there's any questions that Ed or I can't answer, obviously we can come back in writing to that particular member afterwards. So thank you very much for being patient and listening to me, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed for that presentation. It's really good. Just about covered everything, didn't it? Does anybody have any questions? Oh, welcome, Bob. We know you had a good reason for being late, and I'm sorry they tried to shut you out.
I just wanted to miss half of Joe's speech. Thanks very much, Leader, for that contribution. I know how you feel about the County Council at the moment, and I can assure you what my feelings are reflected in yours on that and the very disappointing news you've got today. I just struggle to understand, and this is I suppose it's a political point. You're all in the same party, the MP, you, and the County Council, and yet still we find ourselves in a situation where, for whatever reason, they have delayed it until after the elections. And now, just after the elections, as I said to you on the phone, I believe, this is a cynical move to wait until after the elections and then reject it. And that's what they've done. And I find it disgusting, like you do, because they knew 3 months ago, and I know this, 3 months ago, they weren't going to go through with this. And they know that, and they've just been keeping us on the hook all this time. And I find it appalling. But that's where it is, and that's where we are. Could I just also say, I hope it's just my handset. I'm impressed by the AV system. Well, I've noticed a bit of static always seems to be, or crackle all the while when someone's speaking. It's just annoying in the background. And after a few hours, I would find it irritating. Can I also say, Joe, I did not oppose buying the AV equipment. And Natasha can confirm this. My concern was I didn't know what I was voting for. All I knew was the headline that was on the papers. And I, as a councillor and member, expect to know more than just that, what I'm getting, especially being, as you know, my background is in IT. I was very concerned that we were spending a lot of money on something I didn't know about, and I just wanted more information. Natasha, I'm also, she's sitting far enough away, I can say this, I am so disappointed you are moving on from Scrutiny, and I will never ever forgive you for moving on. And that there will be harsh words to be said later on a Tuesday probably. She knows I usually phone her on a Tuesday, and I will do that. And I cannot only reiterate again that I am not a supporter of the County Council in any way, but I just want to hear their views on why they do this at this council. I want someone from the County Council to come here and justify the way they treat this borough council, not only on Lake Terrace, but also on this, because I'm fed up. You're a county councillor, I know, but we deserve to have someone coming here and telling us why they're doing this to us time after time. You know, they're saying things about our chief exec, they're saying things about you know that, Joe, and they're saying things about how we run. I would love to see the county council come here and justify these kind of statements they release through the press, because it's getting tedious now, it is. And you know, and I know, Joe, that in a few days' time, the Melton Times will have their release, and the Leicester Mercury also will have a release saying how shambolic we are and all the rest of it. And we know it will become a slanging match again. And it just gets on, it really, I just can't understand how we're in this situation. I really can't. Because as you've just said, Joe, we're handing money we got back to the government. Money for investment in this area is being handed by your colleagues, is being handed up or will be voted on in a week's time. to go back to government. And I find that staggering. Having all the work that you've put in and the officers have put in here, they've decided to hand that back. And I know, and you know, this will have an impact in this area for years to come, because once the government gets money back, I know, I've been a civil servant long enough to know it will be a black mark on this area for a long time to come. And it really does make me very angry, very angry. Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Chair.
First of all, apologies to Chris if I misinterpreted his vote, but I think Chris and I know each other well enough and respect each other to know it's all a bit of fun anyway. But apologies if I misinterpreted that. I'm going to try and answer, possibly going to be wrong, what's happened with the County Council. And again, they're going to be listening in, I'm sure. There'll be a report on someone's desk in the morning about what's happened tonight. But I suspect what's happened is we've had austerity now for 11 years. The County Council, here we go, memories of figures. I believe they're down £220 million per year, year on, year on, year on. This authority is down, what, £3 million? Yep, year on, year on, year on. Demand for services have just been going up and up and up. I mean, the County Council in particular, the demands on adult social care and children's services is just massive. If you look at the demands on children's services, it's just scary, actually, the amount of money there. And I think what's happening is the pot is simply coming dry. The County Council just haven't got the money. We haven't got the money. And that's not an excuse. What frustrates me is about the HIF bid is the County Council applied for it. We did tell them, if this means conditions coming on to Melton Borough Council, we can't support you applying for the HIF. They still went ahead. They bid for it. They got it. And now they're going to return it. And that's unforgivable. I fully agree with what Chris has said. That is a black mark, not just against Melton Mowbray, it's a black mark against Leicestershire that is going to be felt for a long, long time if the Cabinet approve the recommendation of their officers. What members of this committee can do, of course, is write to all the Cabinet members, like I've done this morning. Where we are quite lucky, one of the Melton County councillors is on the Cabinet, of course. So obviously we can lobby Councillor Posnett. But that's obviously, that was going to be Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday morning the Cabinet is, and I will be viewing. And yeah, I'm going to have my flat jacket on, Chris, there's no doubt about that. And I suspect the Chief Executive may have, but isn't it sad when it comes to that sort of low level? I have to make a remark like that. Very sad. But thank you very much for your support, Chris.
Yeah, can I just say, as we're talking about the County Council, that particular meeting on the 5th of February, because I wanted to know exactly what they had said. Natasha started me off with the transcript and Rob helped as well. But I went back time and time again to make sure I understood every word, you know, that has spoken. And I was really shocked, not just the dishonesty, the routine dishonesty. There were members there, obviously they're Cabinet members who hadn't bothered to read the papers. Clearly they hadn't bothered to, because they were making comments which made no sense. And I don't remember whether any of you have really read. What was quite shocking as well, that their deputy leader, who's no longer deputy leader, Blake Payne, is it? And he thought he was discussing a planning issue. I mean, how stupid can you get? You know, because I believe it was because he had read a report in the Melton Times to say that the decision was to go to planning. And rather than read the report, he'd read that bit in the Melton Times. And I have huge respect for Rennie, but we all make mistakes at times. But I would not have said that they were competent. You know, that they make a decision, spending a lot of money, and maybe that's the problem over the years. I do remember some years ago that I was appalled that they were giving £50,000, and I won't name which club because I don't know which club it was, but it was for a slimming club. And obviously it's a good thing to help people slim, isn't it? We wouldn't argue with that, but there must surely be other ways than giving them 50,000. But no, it's, and of course a lot of this, of course, is government, isn't it? It's government, you know, who choose not to pay. So can I just make one comment about your presentation? You mentioned a lot about the country park. I hope nobody will forget that we're still hoping for something along those lines in the south. You know, not a country park, maybe a bit smaller, maybe woodland. I know Lee especially is very keen on the idea. So every time you think how nice it is at the country park, think about us down in the south who haven't got a country park. Yeah.
Again, Pat, that certainly won't be forgotten. But what I'm genuinely nervous of is if that southern route doesn't get approved next Tuesday, that is the sort of thing that we could lose out on. The impact of not having that southern link is huge. It could even impact on the second GP surgery.
Can I just say, Joe and Ed, all this Section 106 money that we make sure that Leicester County Council get, is it something we can do in the future? You know, because I think that they've been very lucky that the way we've sort of so often we've tried to meet what they need. And like you say, we're not the education authority, we're not the road authority, we're not the highways. It would be nice to think perhaps we'll put the money elsewhere.
I think, Madam Chairman, all I could say is obviously every application has a number of infrastructure requirements related to it. Some relate to the county council service, some relate to healthcare, some to police, and those things are judged on their merits. The council is drafting a developer contributions supplementary planning document at the moment, which has been in abeyance pending the outcome of this process with the MMDR and the county council. So that is still in draft. And will obviously need to be reviewed in the context of the latest developments. So we are looking to bring something through to Cabinet at some point in relation to that, and then that will set the policy for the council for the future. So yeah, it will be brought forward at some point. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
And can I just say that Lake Terrace, of course, a huge amount of Section 106, that included £813 for roadways, and it actually says MMDR. Well, Lake Terrace is in the south, and yet I suppose it's going to the MMDR in the north. It doesn't seem fair to me. Elaine.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm making it work now. Right, Madam Chairman, thank you. I want to go back to the very beginning, Mr. Leader, where you said how wonderful. Now then, where we are, how wonderful it was when we had that first, when we stuck stars in things. But, and then I go to hear you various people saying, like the chair just said, that people don't read the papers sometimes. We obviously didn't. The people that are, there were people that were not members, but who are here, but we were, and we didn't read the papers, and we didn't realise that if we stuck stars on things and left others out because we thought that those things that we left out were going to happen anyway, they didn't. And the stars that we didn't stick on were for the mayoral duties. Now we have there are 5 ex-mayors here, myself included. And I know that everybody who is a mayor, have been mayors, have done an excellent job and brought in, would you believe, money to this borough. It isn't just being somebody who goes out and has jollies, because I tell you what, it's not like that. And my goodness, when I finished my 2 stints, I was so pleased. I was exhausted. And so were we all, I'm sure, because we really worked hard at it. And so the star sticking was fine to a point. But we mustn't forget, and you say that financially we are not too bad, but we have got to look at the people that actually do bring in money. They in all sorts of different ways. We go out of our Melton borough to other places, and we speak and we do things that we should be doing, and are proud to do it. So I would hope that you don't forget the mayoral role and actually help the mayor with a part-time secretary, because it is vitally important. It isn't something that is, as I repeat, it's jolly hard work. And I think it's done well. And so I do hope that you will think seriously about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine. Yeah, I must admit, every mayor I know, which is quite a few really, when I think about it. I even know the first one, John Croom, if you remember that name. That goes back a long, long time. He was the agent to the Beaver Estate, I remember. Yep, 90. So that shows you how. So I've known every mayor since that time. And it never fails to amaze me the individuality that any mayor puts into it and all the hard work and commitment that they do. But what I've done since the annual meeting may have happened slightly before the annual meeting. No, it's happened since, sorry. So that's only just a fortnight ago. As you already we talked about, we've now got a cabinet support member in Councillor Wilkinson. And of course, we've got to look at remuneration there. And so we've been in, well, officers have been in touch with the chairman of the remuneration panel. And he's also been asked if he would look at the role of mayor as well. So the remuneration panel will be looking at those two things, Elaine, if that helps. But also just to remind you, Chair, that only last year we did increase the mayoral support, one officer for a whole working day. Am I right on that? Yeah. And what other goodies were? There's something else thrown in, or was it just? I've got a feeling there was something. It will come to me in the end anyway. But certainly that was increased to a whole day for the mayoral duties. That was only last year, and people seem to have forgotten that actually. But so that's there already. So that's where we are, Pat. So the remuneration panel will look at the financial reward. You have to say to yourself, though, if you've got to say cabinet support member, that is for work done. And this is where it's going to get difficult, I believe, for the remuneration panel. A mayoral role is not quite the same, is it? But we'll leave that to them. John Cadeby, is it the name? I think something like that. But we'll leave that for them to decide. But certainly support for the mayor was there last year.
Can I just say, from my point of view, you mustn't forget what the mayor brings in. You know that they all do charity money fundraising for charities, and without that, money wouldn't be there. I mean, Melise has just been supporting Rainbows. I don't know how much he raised, but I bet it was a good sum. And they never take that into account. You know, it's not just all money going out. Yeah. So, excuse me, Elaine, would you mind if Prue speaks first?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I was very disappointed last Thursday morning to pull the Melton Times out the letterbox, see a photograph of the Lord Lieutenant here and no mayor. I thought it was the mayor's role to welcome the Lord Lieutenant onto their patch. And I think sometimes protocols, as we don't have a civic officer anymore, protocol has lapsed. And I think it has been said to our current mayor about this, and he didn't realise the protocol. I don't think the council were responsible for inviting the Lord Lieutenant in, but it is a matter of protocol that the mayor should always be there to welcome him, as you would well know, because you've been mayor yourself. And I think that's something that's been picked up, especially in my patch, and they're not really great Melton fans in Bottleford, and they're not really that interested in the mayor. But they have said, where was the mayor? And not welcoming the Lord Lieutenant.
I'm a tad surprised that Lord Lieutenant's office didn't sort of follow that up to make it, you know, sort of, because they have a duty too, don't they? Natasha.
When that visit was taking place, I was in this building. I think I was in this building anyway, but I got a text. And to be honest, it was cabinet briefing, wasn't it? That was right. And to be honest, I got quite steamed up by it. I thought, a bit like Prue, it's totally out of order what's going on here. But then when I started to look into it, I understand it was a private invitation. And the mayor and deputy mayor were both there, by the way. Which I didn't realise at the time. That came out some hours later. They met the Lord Lieutenant, who was in his civilians, remember, he wasn't in his Lord Lieutenant outfit. But the mayor and deputy mayor met him at outside what I still call Dickinson and Morris, or the pork pie shop. So he was there. But like I say, I understand it was a private invitation from Matthew O'Callaghan. That's what I understand.
Tasha, did you want to say something?
I was going to just say exactly what Joe just
fine.
confirmed about the
Thank you.
arrangements for the day.
Thanks for
So
that.
thank you.
Yeah. Elaine.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I shouldn't say Madam anymore. We should say Chair, shouldn't we? We can't discriminate. It's not good enough. One person for a day is not good enough. You do need protocol. You need somebody to write letters. Poor Malise last year was writing his letters. He was actually answering, saying yes, he could come, no, he couldn't come. And poor Pam was doing the same. It was just not on. And when the second time I was mayor, I got it that the money that it costs to go to dues, there was sort of the Lord Mayor's do, all sorts, so expensive. We shouldn't ever disbar anybody from taking a civic office, and so many people could not afford to do it and do it properly if it was going to cost them a lot of money. And I can honestly tell you, there are a lot of people, of course, that don't like the Queen, aren't there? But my goodness, what millions and billions do our royal family bring into this country? Mega millions and billions. And we should keep up a decent mayoral situation as far as I can see. And somebody doing a day's work, are they going to write all the letters? Are they going to thank? Are they going to, sometimes invitations come in very late. So if there's somebody only working a day a week, they won't know. And then you get, oh, the mayor didn't turn up. It's got to be different. It really has got to be different. It's vitally important. I know it's not interesting to you, Jim.
I'm afraid we're not doing very good with, not doing very well with the time. I absolutely agree with the things Elaine says. I think we need something in writing, a protocol, but it is being looked at. And thank you so much for that presentation and the information you've provided. It's given us a lot to think about and help keep us informed. And thanks for the questions, Joe and Ed. And I'm glad you managed to stay with us, Ed, because you didn't think you'd be able to. So if we can go on now to the why not try? I mean, I would suggest that we wait to see what the remuneration panel do, and then we'll give it some thought. Yeah. if we can move on now to the next agenda item, it's the response and recovery task and finish group. And of course, we started these off when we could think about nothing but COVID. And I hope you've read the report, and I know how hard Rob has worked, and mostly it's been Rob. And I know Jeannie did some good work, but an awful lot of it has been Rob, just Rob. So this report is very, very welcome. And are you going to say a few words now, please, now, Rob?
Yes, of course. It's sometimes been challenging and certainly has demanded an element of dedication by all of the members of the group and officers alike. The decision to undertake this work was an obvious and essential one, born from the COVID pandemic. The work demanded for this report has not always been easy to do due to the very nature of the pandemic, by its fluidity, continued presence and effect necessitated lockdowns, etc., which meant delays in some of the work and ultimately the progress that we were going to be having. With all that said, the report before you today is the result of meetings, surveys, discussions held, and these have helped us to ascertain, I hope, exactly how this borough has been affected by the pandemic and how best for us to move forward. It's not my intention today to go through all of the report. However, I will go through page by page a little bit, but just really simply to point out some of the more salient points before asking from any comments from anybody regarding it. Lest I forget, lastly, I'd like to thank all of the members that took part in this report, along, of course, with Natasha and her Democratic Services team, also to Pranali and her team, and not forgetting, of course, Pat for her continued support. We looking at the actual scale of what was in front of us was really quite large, and I think all of us that were involved in this would agree that that was the case. Town centre, we had the retail and the market, the cafe culture, we had leisure and tourism and employment. So there was a lot of stuff there that we really needed to look at, and massive amounts. To that end, it was decided that one of the most effective ways of doing this was obviously by using surveys, asking the people what they thought, people on the ground, what they thought we were doing right and what we were doing wrong. The town survey actually was really, if I say so myself, I think the town survey, and I think all of us were really pleased with the amount of response that we had. 327 responses from that, which I thought was very, very interesting indeed. And there was an awful lot of information that came out from that. I think it's worth noting that from the COVID-19 restrictions, that the vast majority of the public visiting the town centre felt the appropriate measures that we'd taken to ensure their safety was adequate, and they were confident to walk around Melton. Transport and the parking, as we've already discussed, was always going to be an issue that was raised, and hopefully that's one that we'll take forward this year. Looking forward in the transport, and we do really need to look at this, and I've said this before, better cycling facilities are needed in town. We are getting to the stage now where, in fact, I was reading something the other day on the demise of petrol stations over the next few years. And in fact, what people are doing already to address an issue like that. And this is going to come about because we're not going to have the cars anymore. We need to gear up for what will obviously be coming. And I know that Chris has been involved in this and looking at the scooters and things. But better cycling facilities in town, safer cycling facilities in town. You take your life into your own hands when you're riding your bicycle. And I know, because I do, through Melton, it can be tricky indeed. We also need, and this is also something that I noticed, a lot of people have got quite expensive bicycles, and we really don't have the adequate facilities to lock those bicycles up. So I feel that that's something else that obviously we need to look at, and it was something that was highlighted on our report as well. We have an amazingly diverse amount of within the leisure in Melton Borough. It's everything from horse riding, golf, shooting, fishing. It's all there. There's not a lot of places, that have such a diverse amount as we do. All of these, I think, or a lot of them, particularly the outdoor ones in particular, obviously, showed an upturn over the kind of COVID areas. And one that obviously you would probably expect. The indoors activities, obviously, as you would expect, took a downturn. It's interesting to note at the moment, and I'm not a golfer by any stretch of the imagination. I haven't swung a club in anger for many, many years, but golf in Melton and our golfing clubs are absolutely packed at the moment. I know at the weekend that there was something going on, and the event was going from the morning right the way through till the early evening. So it is very, very popular. We need to consider these things and see how we can build on these throughout the borough. The town centre, the visitors, how they visit has changed over the last few months, as you would expect. If you go back before COVID, a lot of people were popping into town on a daily basis, potentially, or maybe just once or twice a week. But it was a weekly thing, and that's changed a little bit now. It's changed now to people coming in. Obviously, there's still people that come in on a daily basis and a weekly basis, but not to the degree. And there's a lot now that are coming in on a monthly basis, maybe twice a month, or potentially not at all. And that is the ones that we have to be concerned with, the guys that aren't actually coming into Melton anymore, which I think is very, very important. And it's a trend of concern. Lots more mentioned on that survey. Obviously, more restaurants, not necessarily coffee shops, but restaurants was one of the things. Live music venues, that's always been very popular, and it retains popular. And again, something we could perhaps build on at some point. Clearly, from the point of view of shops, it was very clear from the surveys that there was a requirement for greater range of smaller units, and especially fashion outlets, to be totally honest. The perennial favourites, really, the vintage car fairs and the craft fairs, etc., all very, very popular, and things that those that were surveyed were very, very keen to see. We do have, and this again became evident, a changing town in how we shop. This is something, of course, that started before COVID. This was the advent of the online shopping. Many times I've been into a shop, and as I'm sure you all have, where somebody's looking at something, checking the price in the shop, and then going and getting it online and walking away with it, having taken a photograph of the price tag or whatever else. Seen it lots of times. It doesn't help our shops, but it is actually a fact of life. Looking into this, the smaller, more bespoke shops, the niche shops, the ones that can't be transferred to online marketplace, such as the delis, the hairdressers, the specific shops to towns like Melton. They're the ones where we need to really, where we will see an increase. And conversely, we need to support. Joe said earlier that the country park perhaps wasn't always as busy as it might be. Actually, I use the country park quite a lot, and it does vary from time to time, I have to say. Sometimes it is busy, but on one of the parts of our survey, it was asked what was nice about Melton, and I think that the one that got the largest hurrah was actually the country park. So you know, we are doing it right. But I do think that it waxes and wanes, and it's throughout the day and even throughout the week. The cafe culture was something else that was looked at, and Jeannie and Chris were part and involved in that. I think there was quite a bit of foot leather that was worn around there, going out and talking to guys in the cafes, and to see, you know, how difficult it was for them to you know, continue. And I know from talking to Jeannie about this, a lot of resilience from within the cafes, making sure that they got takeaways, that they got space outside, as Jeannie alluded to earlier. Ways of actually trading was very important for them. Moving on, we also had a business survey, and the business survey was distributed by Melton Business Improvement District, by Melton Borough Council's Business Support Hub. Not as well received as the survey. In fact, we got 22 responses on that, but I'm assured from Penali that it was never going to be something that was going to be in the hundreds. But nonetheless, it was important, and it was interesting to see that over 80% of the respondees reported that there was a footfall. The footfall had fallen, which is not surprising between June and December. And 77% of those that responded were in receipt of business grants. A very good and a very positive thing. It has been a hard period for businesses. We all know that, and it has hurt. But in general terms, there was a positive element to that business survey. Myself, Jean, and Chris met with Melton Bid and Town Estate, and it was a positive meeting, and it was a very productive one as well. There was a lot discussed, opportunities for smaller starter retail units, stronger collaboration between Melton, the Bid, the Town Estate, and of course Melton Borough Council was one of those things that was suggested. But on the whole, it was a very positive meeting, very worthwhile. And so we come to summaries of evidence and looking at, you know, improving the leisure in Melton. Some of the things that we tend not to kind of look at, I think, are things like Melton's historic past. It's very important, and it's something I think that we can build upon, and we have done through the years, and I think it's something that there's still. It's becoming more and more popular. More and more young people are involved and want to become involved in the history of where they are. And I think that, again, we have to look forward and promote these kind of things, and particularly involve young people in what we're doing. And from a historical point of view, that's something that I think we should consider. We need to make sure that we're signposting, or we put better signposts up as far as what places of interest is concerned, especially from where the coaches themselves are coming into town. Coach welcoming program, I think, is something else that's that we did have, and I don't believe actually that it's something that we currently have, although I hope it will be something that we'll bring back in the future. Of course, Melton Cattle Market as is continuing, and it's got a very, very good website of its own, which I'm hoping that the Discover Melton website will link into and empower that one as well. Try and get much more people going to the cattle market. As we've said earlier, the country park always comes out popular. And we are investing in that country park. We are the infrastructure of the park and its footpaths, they are being developed. Potentially we could do with more amenities in that park to try and bring more people into it. Other things like the waterways and again, something that we have both in the borough and in the town. And something that people like to exercise by. People like to walk and cycle by those things. And that again is something that we've got that we could actually do more with. Our evening economy is another thing that was highlighted. Once again, there's just such a lot that we could do within that. But I would say, and this is something that was brought up to our attention, that it has been seriously impacted by COVID. I mean, it's one of the scary things is that since the start of the pandemic, over 30% of the licensed taxis operating in Melton have decided not to renew their licenses this year. Now that is going to affect our nighttime economy quite a lot, because we really do need people to bring people into town. Nobody really wants to drive. Perhaps they want to drink, they want to relax, whatever. Getting those taxis back on the road, it needs to be something that we really, really seriously consider. Business grants, we spoke about that, massive success. And my figures, Joe, was slightly under yours, but it's a little bit lower than that. I've got about 18 million, to be fair, that was given out, which is a fantastic through the 2 tranches. But it was a fantastic effort. And I think we did really well with that. Looking forward, and we have, the funding is there. There is funding about, and it's important that we actually make sure that we have the resources and the staffing to be able to apply for this funding. We have £45,000, which is coming from the Welcome Back funding, which you've all heard about. And currently, as we speak, I know Penally is working on the Levelling Up funding grant. So there are things out there, and I know Chris and I have spoke about this on a number of occasions, but it's so important to get funding, and it's something that is out there and something that we really need to grasp to get more funding, get more money into the town. Rural capital of food was another thing that, as far as funding is concerned, another 100,000, or there was 100,000 funding from Leicester and Leicestershire Economic Partnership, which is great, and that's going to help us out hugely. The conclusions that we all came to, and this was one of those things that took a little bit of working on, to be totally honest. The Discover website, the Discover Melton website, I think is going to be a fantastic tool. It's something that we actually all need to take on board. Make sure that we are proactive in keeping that up to speed, up to date. If anything's coming along line, we need to make sure that's on there. There's a whole range of other various bits and pieces which I'm sure that you've looked at, and I'm conscious of the fact that time is of the essence a little bit. So if anybody has any questions on anything, then please. I think Jeannie, I think you.
Thanks very much for that, Rob. Yeah, Jeannie, and then Bob, and then Prue.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
and Pranali will be there too to answer questions if there are any for Pranali. Yeah, yeah, Jeannie.
Rob, for such a great presentation, and I'm proud to be part of it actually, and enjoyed the research that I undertook. I'm just wondering about the electric car recharging points. I wondered whether this topic really does belong in the response and recovery task and finish group, but I think it's worth a mention that we probably need more points. I think well, I don't know if we've got any at all. I don't know if anybody else knows. Also, whilst I'm on the topic of transport, I'm trying to remember the name of the town in the East Midlands that has introduced a scooter project. People are actually hiring not only sit-on scooters, which are always going to be popular, particularly with the disabled, but stand-on scooters. And they're not just for young adults, children, teenagers. These were shoppers really enjoying themselves. I think it's going to be a boost to the tourism in that particular town. I kind of thought it was Loughborough or Mansfield, but anyway, sorry, I can't remember exactly where it is. I need to go away and do my research, but I'm sitting here I saw it on East Midlands today. Scooters were hired out and people were having such fun zipping around town, doing the shopping, the facilities for holding bags and so forth, and boosting the tourist trade as well. And the only other point really was the pop-up shops, which I always mention every now and then. But all of these can be kind of popped into the recommendations, I felt, even the scooters. But the electric car recharging points, I think, is quite important, and I don't know where that would fit in.
Just on the scooters, that Chris, who's sitting next to you, has done a lot of work on scooters. I've helped a little bit on that one, but that is something I think that will probably, I think it's fair to say, Chris, that we can bring to a future meeting, isn't it? And yeah. As far as the charging points are concerned, we do have some charging points, not enough, but we do have some. Because the problem with all these things is that they're changing, and the efficiency of them is and the frequency of these things is changing all the time. So it's very difficult to know when you actually jump in and actually buy some. But I think the time is getting close to that.
Sorry, can I just interrupt here? We have a working group that's dealing with climate change, and Chris went to their most recent meeting, and they're on to all of this sort of stuff, really interested, so the council is doing quite a bit, and it's, it really is important. I think, Bob, you had a question.
Not so much a question, thank you, Chair. I think it's very important we don't miss the point here. There's several hundred people completed the survey, which is a good turnout. We're often quite bad at communicating, and it is important that we communicate these results of their efforts on the website, because previously people will ask, well, what actually happened to the place survey? And we must get it on that website.
That's a very good point, yeah.
If you excuse me.
Can I just say, I'm very sorry you mentioned that a day or two ago to me, didn't you? Yeah, it's absolutely vital. It's nonsense, all that work, putting it together, and all the work compiling the figures, that's a really good point. Thank you.
I think it's important that people can see that have taken the time to actually do this, that it has come back, and they can actually see the outcome of it all. So I think that is really valid.
Prue.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As many of you know, I was brought up in Grantham, like Margaret Thatcher, the daughter of a shopkeeper who made a very good living, I have to say. And I'm shattered by the demise of the high street, not only in towns, but in the cities as well. And I don't know, I've not picked anything up in this report about the danger that's happening at the side of the A1 at Grantham, both north and south of the town. I think this is the only council that hasn't objected to the planning application from all the towns around. I understand Peterborough City Doncaster, Melton, Sherwood, Sleaford, Lincoln, all of them have put in major objections, but they've all failed because the thing is going ahead rapidly. This new designer retail park to the south of Grantham opposite Car City. Not content with that, to the north of the town, the Boundary Mills Aldridge site, that's going to double in size. Now, it's going to kill all these towns off. I mean, Newton Sherwood, they're playing general hell with Robert Jenrick, their MP, for allowing it, because it has been referred to him and he's saying, let it go ahead. But it's a tremendous danger, because what's going to be on the town centres? I mean, you've said yourself, Rob, people go in and look at a label and the price and then go home and buy it on the internet. They can go down, I mean, Lynn Aisbett, when she was our chief exec, she said to me, she and her husband came to downtown virtually once every 6 weeks because they bought clothes there. They came from Northampton. I mean, what is the answer? I mean, I know in Grantham, the shops now, I know somebody who wanted to put a shop together. They needed 100,000 from a bank to stock it and take a lease and everything. And the banks they don't want to know in Grantham anymore because they said Grantham's had it. And it has. I mean, one has to accept that. But it's going to have the same effect on Melton, I'm afraid, because a third of you residents shop in Grantham.
I have seen that. I did see that a while ago on television. Yeah, I have seen that, and yeah, I take on board exactly what you're saying. I'm not quite sure what can be done about that. I think that one of the things that we need to do is, as I say, is to look at the shops that are unique and a niche to Melton. Now that doesn't answer all that question, but it does actually help somewhat in that it's those small shops, the special shops that I think will draw more people into the town, and in doing so, it actually starts to revitalise the town somewhat. But I take on board exactly what you're saying, and it is concerning with some of these. Well, they're virtually vacuums, aren't they? They suck everything out, and it all.
I have to say, I'm very surprised that Melton haven't objected or put in an objection to it, because I think it would have.
Nice to see you, Pranali. You've popped up on 2 walls, which is lovely. And yeah, and you'd like to come in about something, I think. If that's okay with you, Rob?
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. This is quite unusual and quite a unique experience. So thank you for allowing me to appear on the screen. And just a few points that were raised earlier. One about the e-scooters and electric charging points. Yes, we are looking into both of those areas. And as Rob mentioned, Councillor Fisher has been a champion of this, and particularly Climate Change Working Emergency Group is looking into it with a specific focus around those 2 issues. So we are on top of it. There will be more information at the all members briefing on the 29th of June, which is I think in 2 or 3 weeks time, that we are arranging for climate change strategy, and there will be much more detailed discussion about that. In terms of publishing the information and the data from the survey, absolutely right. Yes, we can and we should. And really, congratulations to Rob in terms of the information and the quality information that we have gathered. It will help in forming the town centre master plan and the vision that we want to produce going forward. It is very vital information, and yeah, it will be part of the consultation responses, will be part of that vision document. So thank you for that. And last bit about the shops, the Councillor Chandler mentioned, absolutely agree. We do need to create a quality offer. And that would be the key focus point for the town centre vision going forward, is how, where and who will be those businesses that we want to attract in Melton, and how collectively we work with landowners, building owners, and make that happen, how we make that attractive proposition for inward investment for those businesses to come in and open those shops. But also there is a wider offer going on in the town centre, that people don't come just for a shop. They also want a glass of bubbly to go with it, or a box of chocolate to buy alongside it. So how do we make that collective offer is absolutely the right thing to focus for in the town centre master plan, which is apparently starting in the next couple of weeks' time. And we are arranging all members session in July to start discussing about what should we include and how we go about it. So yeah, this work that Rob has done is will be vital into feeding into that piece of work. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much for that, Pranali. It's very good of you. I would just say that it was without doubt a team effort. So everybody that took part in it, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Pranali, and that's a first for us, isn't it? Seeing you on the screen.
Yes.
Thank you. I nearly said chair. I shouldn't say that. Deputy chair and chair. It was a privilege to be part of this team effort, and it was very much a team effort, and it's an important area. My concern is this, and I'll put it bluntly. If we're going to survive this and come out of this well, it has to be, and Rob agreed with me, I remember in a meeting, we've got to have visions that are not painting and putting a few park benches out and all the rest of it. We've got to think big. I'll give you an example. You just mentioned Grantham. You may think, oh, well, Grantham's going to do it all. Newark, they've got a cattle market. It's about to be bulldozed. And they're going to put a 25 million investment into, would you believe, an international air and space training institute. That's thinking and getting consultants. They got expert, I've talked to them, they got expert consultants, they paid Will Whack, and they got a good profile and portfolio together to do it. That's surely what we should be doing in Melton. If we are the rural capital of food, the cattle market is an ideal place, and let's be honest, it's getting a bit tacky and run down, to actually put such an establishment and get this funding. The town funds is there. Newark got it, 25 million they got in a bid to do this. And that's what you need for this Melton Mowbray to survive. You need something that people want to come here for. And if you get something which is, for instance, a food research institute or whatever, people will come. But we need to have big visions. And I just worry that we are still, I'm looking at the leader, we still don't have a master plan that has big visions. And I know that the master plan is being put together as we speak. But for me, it's got to have big visions for the centre, not, you know, what I would call minor ones. We need millions in this town to compete with Grantham and Newark, and they are competing areas for us. They're similar things. And the one thing also I'll say to you, and you know I'm going to go on about this still, my major concern with Melton is still, and I'm looking at the chair here very carefully, that we need all to pull together in the recommendation to collaborate with the key stakeholders. And we all know who I'm talking about here. Town estate in particular are a big player in our town here, and we need to make them aware. And in the interview, it's made very clear that the communication and collaboration with them was very poor, and their representative made that very clear. And also, to a certain extent, the bid person. We need this to be, if we're going to pull this together and have a big bid, it needs to be a bid with all three of those three of those partners involved, and it needs to be something that's imaginative and outside the loop. Otherwise, we're not going to get big money. And to me, Deputy Chair, that's what we need for this town to survive. We need that, especially if now that the Southern Bypass isn't probably going ahead, we need that investment and we need it soon. And I just feel we aren't going on the same league as Newark and Grantham at the moment.
Thanks very much for that, Chris. And I'm very conscious of the time. I think Pranali would like to come in about that, and I think that we'll call that the end of the meeting, if that's okay. So if that's okay with you, Rob, if Pranali has the, and then we'll have.
Actually, I was just going to say, I'm sure Pranali would like to come
Yeah,
back and
then
speak with regard to Chris's
and then we'll go to the
comments.
recommendation.
Yeah.
So Pranali, yes, but we're coming up. Sorry, to 9 o'clock.
Okay, so just very briefly, yes, totally agree with all the things that Councillor Evans has mentioned here. We do need to think big, and that's the only way, by working with other partners, that we can attract multi-millions within the town, and that's precisely what we are doing in preparing the levelling up funding bid. The bid is being submitted on Friday, and the information, all the documents will be available online from next week. But the key proposition we are looking at is working with the town estate, the college, and the cattle market, the Melton Mowbray markets, looking at 3 projects across 3 sites within town centre, and bringing them together to enhance our rural capital of food offer. So I'm not going into too much detail just yet, but it will be all in public domain next week. And yes, that's exactly what we are aiming for, is a big vision, transformational, quite innovative, and something that's very unique and quite pertinent to our strength of Melton as a place. So hopefully, if successful, that will be a good place to start with. If not, it will be a project ready, oven ready, and we will start working ourselves and chipping away at it. So either way, we are preparing the vision. Thank you.
I think I'm, oh, am I on? Oh, thank you. Thanks ever so much for that, Pranali, very much indeed. Can I just say a word to Chris about the town estate? Rob will confirm, I've no doubt, that I phoned Rob today about this meeting, and I said, and don't forget to say how the relationship with the town estate is improving. Is that right, Rob? I know Chris has got it into his head that I and the town estate are at war. We are not. They are an important player in the town. And Rob will tell you that as far as I'm concerned, they are important. And I hope, Chris, you realise, I don't know what you've been thinking about, but you're wrong. Anyway, thanks again, Pranali, for joining us. And thanks very much indeed, Rob, for that. And now I'd like to propose a recommendation on page 23 to approve and recommend to Cabinet the final report of the Response and Recovery Task and Finish Group Place. And thanks again for all that work that you and the others have done, Rob. And could I have a seconder? Yep, then John Illingworth will second. And we don't have to take a vote, do we? Or do we take a vote now? We do take a vote then. So all those in favour? That is, I would say that's unanimous. Yes, yes, thank you very much. And thanks again. And there's no urgent business. And thank you all for your attendance and your contributions. And a special thank for Joe for his excellent presentation. And yeah, so that's the end of the meeting, and just about 9, is it? So we're, yeah, so thanks again, take care.